Shomase! I saw this article. Astrophysicists create time machine simulations to observe the life cycle of ancestor galaxy cities. Many processes in astrophysics take a very long time, making their evolution tricky to study. For example, a star like our sun has a lifespan of about 10 billion years, it says. One way astrophysicists deal with this is by looking at various different objects to compare them at different stages of evolution. They can also look at distant objects to effectively peer back in time, because of the length of time the light took to travel to reach our telescopes, it says. Now, for the first time, researchers have created simulations that directly recreate the full life cycle of some of the largest collections of galaxies observed in the distant universe 11 billion years ago, reports a new study published on June 2nd in the journal National Astronomy. Cosmological simulations are crucial to studying how the universe became the shape it is today, but many do not typically match what astronomers observe through telescopes. Most are designed to match the real universe only in a statistical sense. Constrained cosmological simulations, on the other hand, are designed to directly reproduce the structures we actually observe in the universe. However, most exciting simulations of this kind have been applied to our local universe, meaning close to Earth, but never for observations of the distant universe. A team of researchers led by Kavli Institute and project assistant Professor Keegan Lee were interested in distant structures like massive galaxy protoclusters, which are ancestors of present-day galaxy clusters before they clump under their own gravity. They found current studies of distant protoclusters were sometimes oversimplified, meaning they were done with simple models, not simulations. Quote, "We wanted to try developing a full simulation of the real distant universe to see how structures started out and how they ended," said Atta. The result was COSCO, Constrained Simulations of the Cosmos Field. Lee said developing the simulations was much like building a time machine, because the light from the distant universe is only reaching Earth now, it says. What was most challenging was taking the large-scale environment into account. Quote, "This is something that is very important for the fate of those structures, whether they are isolated or associated with a bigger structure. If you don't take the environment into account, then you get completely different answers. We were able to take the large-scale environment into account consistently because we have a full simulation, and that's why our prediction is more stable," said Atta. Another important reason why the researchers created these simulations was to test the standard model of cosmology that is used to describe the physics of the universe. By predicting the final mass and final distribution of structures in a given space, researchers could unveil previously undetected discrepancies in our current understanding of the universe. Using their simulations, the researchers were able to find evidence of 3 already published galaxy protoclusters and disfavor one structure. On top of that, they were able to identify 5 more structures that consistently formed in their simulations. This includes the Hyperion proto-supercluster, the largest and earliest proto-supercluster known, that is 5,000 times the mass of our Milky Way galaxy, it says. In Greek mythology, Hyperion is a titan that is said to have fathered Helios, Selene, and Eos, the dawn. So I'm going to talk a little about numbers, and first here's a clip from Hebrew scholar Dr. Heiser.
The thing. Let's talk about the thing with Nero first. I know. You instigator, you. It depends on the way you spell Nero's name, which actually gets different spellings in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Latin. And Nero has been a popular candidate for the Antichrist, not only because with one of those that you just mentioned, you can calculate the number of his name. By the way, gematria is the practice, and lots of languages used it, where you would take the letters of the alphabet. Like the first 10 letters of the alphabet in Hebrew are numbers 1 through 10. You assign numbers to the letters of the alphabet, and so on and so forth for all your alphabetic numbers. And then when you see a name or a phrase, you can do the math. You can just put the numerical equivalents in there and you come out with a number, and it may mean something or may not. But with Nero, he's a popular candidate because there are some manuscripts of Revelation 13:18 that do not read 666. They read 616. Let me see if ESV has done its job here. Look at that. Some manuscripts 616. So I don't know the editor here, but good job, whoever you are. But Nero, again, if you pick one of the alternate spellings for Nero, you can get his name to match 616 as well. So he's like a favorite candidate. But a lot of scholars feel that it's kind of cheating to just pick your language and get your name, like that's essentially what you're doing. Other commentators like Beale will make the comment that you can take this phrase number of a man and you could translate it human number. And then that takes you down the other road that you mentioned about the significance of a number less than 777. Okay, and 888 is Jesus, 777 is God. And I mean, there were different numbers that meant, a standard of holiness or perfection. And if you're thinking, these people were just crazy. I mean, first we get this astronomy stuff, and now all this number symbolism. Okay, they were serious about this in the first century because they had different reasons, but some wanted to encrypt ideas into names and numbers for their own safety. There's some speculation that Revelation does some of that. If you think especially that Revelation is a book that was written before the destruction of the temple, and it's a polemic on Rome, even if you don't have to be a preterist and think it's all fulfilled, you can still be something of a futurist. But if you think that there are things in the book that are directed against the emperor and the Romans, yeah, you would probably encrypt that rather than just put it in the text and then take the consequences. The Romans are knocking at your door the next day. So there's a certain logic to it, and it was used for secrecy. Some of it was esoteric, mystical thinking, trying to communicate theological ideas with numbers and stuff like that. Lest you think it's really strange. I mean, we do the same thing with number 3. What do we associate 3 with? The Trinity. There are just things like this that are somewhat familiar to us, but in their culture there was just more of it, more of that kind of thing going on. So I don't, is it an already or not yet? I don't really see the number itself as fitting into really the already category, because I'm not sold on the book of Revelation A being written, early. I mean, you
All right. So I saw this on Marfoogle TV, and right away I thought of Area 52.
Oh, wow. Gosh. Look at that. Do we have where it took off from, or it doesn't show?
If you zoom out, you'll see it started in the middle of the Pacific.
Oh my gosh, it actually started from the middle of the Pacific.
So for example here, 5 plus 1 is 6.
You ever hear of Division 6?
There is no Division 6. This is bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to take another look at this article, 5 Surprising Facts About the Planet Venus, starting with number 5. If you viewed Venus through a microscope, you would think it's the loveliest of planets, a beautiful light in the sky. Because of its proximity to Earth, Venus appears bright and radiant in the sky. So inspired were early astronomers by the apparent beauty of Earth's sister planet that they named it after Venus, the Roman goddess of beauty and love. However, if you got closer to its surface, you would see a myriad of deep craters and mountains. You'd also see thousands of volcanoes ranging in size from quite large to very small. In fact, it has more volcanoes than any other planet, the largest being Sapas Mons. And then Sapas Mons is the Canaanite sun goddess. That's the Phoenicians. It's kind of interesting that there are 3 ayats of 24 runes, with the elder runes that the English language derives from. What do you think about this? Thanks for watching. Arigato. Mata ne.
To view this as fulfilled, like the number already existed in real time, you'd pretty much have to commit yourself to an early, date of authorship, because then you would go to Revelation 11 and you'd say, see, there's the courts of the temple mentioned there. The temple must still be standing, and so this has to be written before 70 AD, and then the outcome of this is 70 AD, and where it's no longer prophecy. Then you could take that and say, well, Daniel 11 talked about this Antichrist figure who now we think is Nero because Revelation's written before 70. But see, Daniel could have said, well, the fulfillment of this has already happened with Antiochus, but now we know it's Nero, and so maybe it'll ripple out again in the future. Maybe there will be a not yet. Maybe there'll be somebody else down the road who'll be a new Nero or a new Antiochus. There are just ways to no matter what system you adopt, you can say it's either all fulfilled or it's all future, it's a little bit of both. I just don't see anything in the text that helps answer that question, specifically with the number, because the answer to it is going to hinge on really what you think about the authorship. And I'm still a late dater, the mid-90s. I think that's the best date explanation, but it's not secure by any means. There's a couple church fathers mention it, but there are a couple church fathers that thought it was early too. I mean, there's no way you can really pull anything conclusive out, about the date of the book.